Welcome in. Hail to the prod. What a start. Hail to the podcast.
God.
Well, I mean, the weekend we've had. Hail to the podcast. Brought to you by Mason Blue Review. We cover Michigan for the Rivals Network, which means you can find us at michigan.rivals.com. If you are not a subscriber already, oh man.
Boy. Oh, no.
Trevor's English is just about as good as the football team.
You know what it is? I'm exhausted. I'm just exhausted from this. Yeah, we'll get into it. Anyway, if you're not a subscriber already, now is the time to join. Head over to michigan.rivals.com/sign up. You can use promo code BLUE30 to get the first 30 days free access to the Den, our message board community, premium content, and Josh Henschke's Intel. Speaking of Josh Henschke, Intel insider and publisher, Mr. Mason Blue Review himself joining me. I mean, if that intro just doesn't sum up how we feel right now, right? Like, what a mess.
Laughing through the, smiling through the pain. Through the pain. It's, yeah, it's looking pretty bleak right now.
Yeah. We are also joined by the man on the couch, Mr. Brock Heilig. How you doing?
The man of many backdrops.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm doing well. It was a fun weekend being in Champaign and then going to the basketball game last night, which I know we'll get into both games. But
yeah,
the law of inverses, I guess, if you want to call it, of the Michigan football team and the Michigan basketball team.
We've got a great basketball season coming.
Yeah, if the football season is any indication, then the basketball team is going to be going at least to the Sweet 16. So
yeah, the Michigan ecosystem is real. You trade one for the other, but yeah, as Brock said, we will get into basketball. We're going to start obviously with football, talking about the embarrassing loss to Illinois. Where we are now with Michigan State coming up, obviously preview that game. And then we'll get into trying not to overreact to an exhibition game against Oakland. But we did get to see some basketball. A lot of things Dusty May said we would see. We did see. So we're going to just kind of talk about our thoughts from that initial game, some roster observations, and start to talk about basketball, which is right around the corner. But of course, we are going to lead with football. Michigan's 21-7 loss to Illinois. It's so weird because part of me feels like it was worse than that. But then there's also the part of where it's like the 3 turnovers were it. Without that, you win that game. You should have won that game. With estimated, with your EPA, with estimated play production, they were actually better. So they should have won that game if you're a big fan of that analytic. But look, coming into the show, I was thinking, what can I say new? Right? When Arkansas State and Fresno State, those games early on, the non-conference in the beginning of the year happened, we talked about, well, look, this has been Michigan in the past too. These are the early games. It can't be this bad. Like, things are going to open up. They're going to do this. They're going to get better every week, blah, blah, blah. And it feels like not only has that not changed, but Josh, what gets me with this game is you're coming off a bye week.
Yeah.
Right. You just had this Washington loss on the road. Big shock moment, right? Time to bounce back. You got the bye week. Get your season recalibrated here with this Illinois game. And you show up flat. Nothing different. Nothing new. You're still making the mistakes. I mean, we can get into more detail and we will, obviously. I think the defense actually had a pretty good day.
That was going to be one of my points.
Yeah. But, I mean, again, it's just like, man, how are we here? Right. But what are your thoughts? I mean, I've given them the benefit of the doubt so many times that, like, okay, this is going to be the moment. And it's just another flat.
I don't even know where to start. I have so many thoughts. None of them good. Well, maybe I guess one good thought is that the defense showed up. They traveled. I mean, they limited Illinois to what, 75 yards in the second half or something like that. This has been Michigan's just downfall all year, is that they can't get both sides of the ball working together. I mean, really, all 3 sides of the ball, if you want to count special teams. I mean, they cannot put together a performance where each side can feed off the other. I mean, it's either you have to ask for a prayer offensively against USC, or you're asking for the defense to kind of hold on and do anything like you saw against Washington. But all of that circles back to the offense just not existing. I mean, not even you don't even have any semblance of an offense. All of that goes back to coaching, not having guys ready. I mean, the quarterback situation, we've talked about it ad nauseum. I mean, what else can you say about it? They don't have a quarterback. Even thinking about switching quarterbacks isn't going to fix anything. It's not going to change anything. You're putting lipstick on a pig, and you're dressing up crap and trotting it out there. I mean, it's crap. It's all crap. It's not good. None of it's good. And look, you're staring down the barrel of the gun right here, and this thing is about to go off any week. And I think this will be the weekend where it does.
This is the week.
This is when it goes off. If you cannot beat Michigan State, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. This program is, with the way the transfer portal works right now, and Michigan's recruiting is not as dire as some make it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
They can turn this around in a hurry, but Sherrone Moore's got to make some moves. I mean, no one should be safe this offseason. That goes for players. I don't care if it's analysts. I don't care if it's guys that are laundering the jock straps every weekend. I mean, you got to think about top to bottom. Some changes need to be made. I mean, you need to look inwardly. You hired Sherrone Moore for continuity. You don't have continuity. And now this is 100% his program. And what happens here from this point forward is on him. I mean, yeah, you can make the argument that, JJ decided late, Jim Harbaugh this, Jim Harbaugh that. Having to hire a staff in February is not ideal. Okay, I'll give you that benefit of the doubt. However, you got to make the right moves moving forward. You can't afford any mistakes. And when you're talking about the quarterbacks, true too, you got one who can't turn the ball over, one who turns the ball over, another one who turns the ball over, and then another one, this is going to blow your minds when I say this, guys, another guy that turns the ball over. So either way, I don't even know. I don't know. I don't have the answers, obviously. I'm just some dude sitting in front of a camera and just bitching about this terrible play and how bad it's been. But it's not good. I mean, the leaders got to look themselves inwardly. I mean, at this point, hell, I don't blame anyone for bailing on this team midway through the year and just going pro and doing their thing. I mean, it's that bad right now. So, and it's only going to get worse if you can't beat Michigan State, who are they're pretty much the same program. I mean, this game on Saturday is going to set the game of football back about 15 years. It's going to be that bad. It's going to be a horrific display from both teams. So, look, it's bad. I mean, yeah, Sherrone's got to look inwardly quick. I mean, and I'm sure he probably is right now, but there's no quick fix for this team right now. You just got to have to hope and pray they can find a way to get it done. I don't know what that looks like, because all of the excuses and all of the stuff that's out there, none of it's working. You can't use any, you can't lean back on anything. Now you're in a position where you kind of have to look towards the future and hope that they even make a bowl game at this point, which
I don't even care about that.
Hell, yeah. I mean, who knows?
Other than the practices, but
yeah, no. Look, it's bleak. It's bleak. It's just not good. It's not good.
We've talked about expectations, Brock, and adjusted them over the last few weeks, obviously, as each game has caused us to lower them. And, we said what this Illinois loss would mean, right? Which is obviously, I mean, not that the playoff dream was realistic, but just in terms of numbers, right? It's completely irrelevant. Now, Colston made the comment. Oh, nice. Do we have...
Sorry, we've gotten some breaking news here.
Do we have anything ready for that?
that we cannot share with you right now at the moment, but I'm going to check to see if we're ready. So give me like 2 seconds.
I was going to say, if you got to work on that, work on that.
Yeah.
Brock, when we talked about, expectations adjusting, right? At this point, this was natural. It is what it is. It is, right? This team is what it is at this point. It's just it. Loveland made the comment about wrecking other team seasons. I was like, cool, I'm on board with that. But the reality is, whether it's 7-5, 6-6, whatever, to Josh's point, I think Moore is going to get another chance no matter what, because he deserves the full offseason. I do think there's a lot of positive things with recruiting that people are going to be able to latch onto. This year is just whatever happened, right? That said, you can't lose this game. You cannot lose to Michigan State. And I already can tell the Sparty fans are going to be annoying this week, because I tweeted something basically saying that. They're like, oh, I thought you didn't care about us. No, we're the third biggest rival. Blah, blah. No, you don't understand. I'm saying losing to you is rock bottom. Right? Do you not understand? Like, your program had a way worse offseason than Michigan's. To Jonathan Smith's credit, right? Their NIL guys just bailed halfway through the season last year, right? That roster is not good. You can't lose to Michigan State this year. Give oxygen to that program. They're already doing a better job in terms of relative to expectations this year. You can't lose to them. That's my opinion. I don't even care. Lose literally every other game the rest of the year. I don't care. You can't lose this one.
Yeah, you're totally right. And we talked about this a lot last week, Trevor, and how this game is going to mean a lot for both programs going forward. And now that Michigan has lost to Illinois, I've been thinking the last few days, Michigan's going to be playing for bowl eligibility in this game, in my opinion. Michigan's not beating Oregon, not beating Ohio State, probably not beating Indiana at this point. Kurt Signetti has done some sort of wizardry there or something, beating Nebraska 56-7. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But I mean, that's 3 losses right there. And you assume Michigan will beat Northwestern. You need this game to be bowl eligible at 6-6. And it's crazy that that's even a true statement at this point in the season, but it is. And Michigan needs to win this game. A lot of the players have talked about how even Colson Loveland said on the Inside Michigan Football radio show just a few minutes ago that last year's game didn't feel that big because Michigan State was so bad. But to your point, Trevor, both teams aren't great this season, and Michigan State had a worse offseason than Michigan did. And losing this game is completely inexcusable. Like, I don't care that Michigan doesn't have a quarterback, doesn't have receivers, doesn't have a good offense in general. This team has infinitely more talent than Michigan State, like individually. And the fact that it's not showing up on the field and not resulting in wins is it's obviously annoying for the fans, but just based on pure football talent standpoint, Michigan has way better football players, and losing a game like this would be just such a huge indictment on the coaching staff as a whole, on the team as a whole, that they look like they've given up on this season. I don't know if that's how it comes across to anyone else, but they look like they've given up. They look like they're going through the motions, and they look like a team that's just hung over from winning the national championship, and that this season really doesn't mean a whole lot to many of the guys. That's what it seems like. And you have to somehow, Sharon Moore is going to have to find a way to get these guys out of bed and ready to play on Saturday. You can't lose this game, and they have to find some sort of path to victory. However ugly it looks like, they have to win.
I would think Sparty is enough, right, to get a reaction out of the players. I'm with you. Look, I say this all the time, like, for as upset as fans can be, you don't care as much as the players. I promise you, man. They work all week and practice and meetings and watching film, and then you show up on Saturday and you get your butt kicked. It sucks, dude. It's hard, right? So I sympathize with them to a point. I do think there's some players you can see are giving max effort. I'm not gonna start naming names. I don't care. There's some guys giving it all, and yeah, to Brock's point, there's a couple guys where it's like, I don't know, man. And again, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, blah, 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 whatever. But yeah, you got to get up for this game. And like, I like what you said, Brock, however you decide to win it, right? Where's that mentality? Like I've said this multiple times because people keep talking about, they're trying to run the JJ offense with these. No, they're not. I don't believe that for a second. They never left JJ alone against pressure like they have these guys this year. And I always bring up the Penn State game. Barnhart's getting worked early. They add extra linemen. They bring in 12 personnel. The tight ends are over there. They're still getting pressure on JJ. Fine. We're literally not going to pass the ball. Right? Like, that's the length they were willing to go to. Why is Jack Tuttle throwing the ball as many times against Illinois as he did? What was it? 40 dropbacks, 32 attempts. Why? You're having issues throwing the ball. I don't get it.
It's a good point, but in Kirk Campbell's defense, I've seen a lot of people go after him. Like, at least 10 of those attempts must have been in the last few minutes of the game when he was just dropping back and throwing the ball.
Yeah, and that's why, like, even some of his numbers too, with even the yards, it's tough. You got to kind of take that out of it. But look, the QB situation, Brock, real quick. Sharon Moore did kind of shed some light on that tonight during the day, basically not committing to anything. If you want to talk about that real quick, and then we can kind of share our thoughts on that. But
yeah, Sharon Moore said on the Inside Michigan Football Radio show with John Jansen that Jack Tuttle would be the guy. He said, let me pull up the official quote here. He says, I think right now Jack would be the guy. Yeah, I think right now Jack would be the guy, but you have to go through the week and see what happens. Which, in my opinion, personally, doesn't make a whole lot of sense because Sharon Moore has preached basically all season and multiple times, even since the Illinois game ended, that ball security is the number one priority, like taking care of the football and not turning it over. And Jack Tuttle clearly turns the ball over, and so does Davis Warren. And Alex Orji, maybe not as much, but we all know he struggles throwing. And so I don't envy the coaching staff having to make a decision here, but it does seem a little bit odd with how much Sharon Moore preaches ball security and not turning the ball over. He does still give the edge to Tuttle when he turned it over twice on Saturday. And it should have been 3 times had Michigan not been bailed out by that holding call on Illinois on that awful interception over the middle of the field.
Yeah. I'll get to that in a second. Shadyville asked, should Coach Moore take over play calling duties? I don't know, but he said today he's not. So
he should.
He should probably, yeah.
On past due.
Look, on the quarterback thing, I've got a couple thoughts. I was a big Davis Warren defender at the time because I said, look, on the totem pole of issues, he's at the bottom. I don't care what QB you put back there. The formations and rotations they're using make absolutely no sense. They're not providing enough protection, whether it's with the base 5 offensive linemen or because they're not going to the 12, using the inline tight ends, blah, blah, blah. Too much pressure is getting through. At the time, the staff didn't realize Kalel Mullings was RB1, and apparently they forgot again this week. I could not believe Donovan Edwards came out for the first carries. For anyone that's not new to this, like, I'm not saying less carries for Donovan Edwards. I don't think he's a bum. I just think it's very clear Kalel Mullings is your early down short yardage back. It's obvious to everyone. I don't understand it. But anyway, Donovan Edwards comes out, and then you call a pass play to Amorian Walker, first play, which Josh and I were talking before we came on. You've telegraphed everything you're doing with wide receivers at this point, because if CJ Charleston's out there, if Kendrick Bell's out there, if Peyton O'Leary's out there, I know what you're doing.
The run.
Right. If Amorian Walker's out there on the outside and he's looking anxious, I'm not stupid. And what, you're going to scare me? What you showed Illinois is you can't pass the ball. And they were like, fine. Okay, we're going to sell it to the run then. You know? But anyway, I defended Warren for those reasons. Of his interceptions, 3 of them weren't his fault. Like, there's a stat I like called turnover worthy plays. Those are plays that quarterback makes where they're worthy of a turnover. So that can kind of account for, tip balls or things that weren't their fault. So we've talked about this before. I know Warren had 6 interceptions. Let me say this. When the coaches switched to Orji, I think they made the right decision. We all agreed with the turnovers. Okay. I'd argue when they switched from Orji, to Tuttle. They probably made the right decision at that point. Down 14, Tuttle's finally been healthy, whatever. So it's not that I think they made the wrong decision at any of those points. We have hindsight now. But now that we're sitting here with these 3 QBs, it's like, what in the world were you thinking this offseason? That you knew this is what you had and you weren't doing everything to build an offense that was going to be able to work around this. And now it's like, I don't know. I could make the argument. I think Warren's probably the better choice. He can make some throws. The other guys don't. He might turn the ball over. So will Tuttle, right? The Orgy thing, people said, "Oh, put Orgy in and just literally don't run it every single time." He hasn't looked that good as a runner. Jack Tuttle, when he's not fumbling it, actually looks better as a runner. His problem is pressure in the pocket. He can't handle it. 25% pressure to sack rate. 25% of the time he gets pressured, he gets sacked. Another big chunk of the time he scrambles and loses the football. It's wild. So I don't know if I care which quarterback's back there. I don't know. Sharon, what?
Sharon is hinting at eyeballs, which was the thing I was working on here earlier in the show. Stay tuned because it's happening soon. So I think fans will be pretty happy about that. It's not Bryce Underwood. For the love of God, I'm saying that now. It's not Bryce Underwood. So please don't.
I don't know where I was going with that rant about the quarterbacks and what you don't do. But you've distracted me. And I'm going to say this real quick. When other people report stuff, we can't be expected to adjust our reporting to what they did. So like when Pyle committed, somehow we were jerks for saying like a commit was coming and covering it. And then they're like, "Oh, this is bull, all the Underwood hype." We didn't say that. Yeah. Right? Like I'm not reading these other people's message boards to make sure like you heard this. Like, you know what I mean? So anyway, we have talked about the Underwood stuff over on the board. Again, if you're not a subscriber already, head over there. But yeah, looks like commit watch. Pretty nice. Cool. Josh, I was rambling about which quarterback, the problems with offensive line. If Hinton is healthy this week, I'd argue you're seeing the starting offensive line you should have seen from the get-go for the first time this year with Hinton, Preeb, Crippen, Elhadi, and Gentry. So maybe that'll be a good thing that gets figured out. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't know where I was going with this rant. I don't know. I don't know if I care who the quarterback is. I want to see a lot of Khalil Mullings. I want to see, again, don't care who the quarterback is. I want to see Loveland in the seam. I want to see easy throws in the flat. I want to see Donovan Edwards used in the passing game, for the love of God. Like, please just do it one time. If you do it in any game, do it in this game.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just got a text message. Yeah, no, everything needs to be better. I know you mentioned the offensive line with Miles Hinton potentially returning. If you look at their grades from over the weekend, it was bad. I mean, everything was bad, obviously, but I think the offensive line has not developed as much as we thought it would, considering the considering the turnover, and B, these guys are returning with some experience, and then C, you still have Sharon Moore on the staff, obviously. So there hasn't been, I don't think, as much strides made. I mean, I think they've been fine in stretches, but obviously not good enough. That probably number one needs to improve, because if you've got your quarterback running for your life, or you're not creating holes for your running backs to run through. I mean, a lot of that is a lot of Mullings' big gains have kind of almost been, well, not almost, but they've been basically self-manufactured. Like they've been, he's busting through the line. Yeah, he's breaking a tackle. It's not, you're not seeing these massive gulfs that Blake Corum would run through, or heck, even, Donovan Edwards would run through last year. So that's got to get better. All of that kind of is this ecosystem that we're seeing now that's just not very good, because if one thing's off, the whole thing's off. I mean, even if the offensive line was the best offensive line in the country, if your quarterback's off, you're not going to be having a good offense. So like, it's just, everything's off, and Mullings can only do so much. I totally agree that he should be receiving the bulk of these carries. you know, he at this point, it seems crazy to kind of feel like he's the saving grace, but he could potentially be the saving grace if you give him a little bit more carries and don't be afraid to go to him at the right time. I feel like these last couple of weeks, the
Right.
staff has just not gone to him at the right times, or it's gone to him when it's too late. And, you know, going down 14-0 and then deciding that you wanted to run Kalel Mullings, what are we doing here? Like that doesn't make sense. So look, everything needs to be better. And we kind of assumed that, hey, they needed this reset coming out of the bye week, and it didn't happen. And guess what? That's on coaching. That's on every single coach, offensive coach. That's on them 100% for not getting their players ready, not getting their players developed. You know, you could make the argument why it took this long to get Gentry more snaps. The jury's still out on him. I'm not sold that he's better than Link, or he's better than what Link has provided. Maybe he is, but you know, I sure couldn't tell the difference. You know, maybe there was one good block he had. I think it was called out during the broadcast, but I couldn't tell. So look,
can I tell you you're crazy?
Well,
I thought Gentry was significantly better. But.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that whole team sucked. So I mean, one little bright spot on a team that just totally sucked. You know, that's fine, but it's just not good, man. Like I don't know what you do. Like you can't pass. I mean, I can't even say you're comparable to an Army or Navy, because they're kicking ass. You know, they're probably both gonna run the table. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame loses this weekend.
That's so
Navy?
fun.
They play Navy or Army. They play one of those guys. Look, you can't even say that they're comparable to that. They're worse than that. At least Navy and Army are winning, and they're winning like soundly and playing excellent football.
It is Navy. No, Navy's this weekend, and then when is Army? The 23rd of November.
So look, it's not good, man. Like, this is what you get after a week off. It just reminds me of
the post bye week. The post bye week is what kills me.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's a Brady Hokian type of performance. It really is. I couldn't tell the difference between the two programs.
Yeah, it is rough. And Trevor, he brought up using Donovan Edwards in the passing game. He's probably only got about 5 games left in Michigan uniform. So if there's any time to do it, it might as well be now, because time's running out for him. But I agree with what Hugh says. Just literally run the Army offense, right? Like,
I'm just laughing because I have a feeling his name is not actually Hugh.
I would bet that. But just literally just run the ball. And it's not a secret this team can't throw. Everyone knows it. And if there's one play to summarize the entire Michigan offense this season, it's either the play early on in the game where Tuttle missed Colston Loveland wide open. On that corner route, or it's the play where Tuttle stared down Colston Loveland in the red zone and threw the interception. It's one of those two plays.
Yep.
And if Michigan's going to be successful on Saturday, because this game is probably the one that's up in the air the most at this point. If Michigan's going to be successful, at this point, it might just have to go back to its smash mentality, even though that might be out the window at this point, and just try and be more man than Michigan State is, and run it down their throat. Use the offensive line, lean on them, run it with Mullings twice every 4 downs, mix Alex Orji in there, hand the ball to Donovan Edwards, hand it to Samaj Morgan on the term is
end around.
End around, and get your way down the field doing that, because throwing the ball is not going to work. And they're going to turn it over at least twice if they do try and throw it. So, maybe Edwards will fumble again, but the odds of turning the ball over is way lower if you just run the football. And that's obviously Michigan's strength. And that's probably the clearest path to victory on Saturday.
Right. Michigan State's strength on their defense is their pass their pass defense. Well, Michigan can't throw the ball more than 5 yards, so what's the point? I mean, just run the ball. You know, you're not playing. You can't play into anyone's strengths because you don't have a strength on offense. I mean, yeah, the running game is top half in the country, and Michigan State's pass defense is top half in the country. Well, you can't pass the ball, so what's the point of even trying? Like, you cannot. You aren't the screens and the little dink and dunk stuff that you're trying to do is not working. So what's the point of even trying to pass? Because if Michigan State is arguably pretty good at defending the pass, what's the point? What's the point? I mean, you're not going to be able to do it, and you sure as hell don't have a quarterback that can do it, without making a mistake or turning the ball over. I mean, that Tuttle pass, that interception, that one that got called off, was the most horrific pass I have ever seen. I mean, what were you looking at? I could have done that same pass and I would have gotten picked up. I mean, like, you threw it to directly. I mean, that looked like Joe Milton.
Yep, it was Joe Milton. That's right.
That was probably the worst pass I've seen a quarterback at Michigan throw since that Joe Milton dummy pass he had against, I don't know, what was it, Wisconsin or something like that. Oh my God! Like,
I've got the John O'Corn Ohio State pick.
You could trot.
Oh my God!
I mean, you could trot Johnny Smith from Beta Sigma Alpha down on State Street, and he'll do the same thing for you at quarterback. I mean, like, you're not. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. Yeah, against Michigan State. Yeah, because he could do the same thing. He could throw it to the other team. I mean, like, oh my God, it's just it's.
That's why, like, I've been really harsh on Kurt Campbell, and I probably will continue to be with some of the offensive, again, the formations, rotations, some of the rhythm of the play calling. But he's got to be losing his mind when you do scheme Colston Loveland open deep and you just can't hit the throw. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it feels like. Is like, either the players aren't put in position to succeed, and you're like, what is that call? Why is there no extra protection? Blah, 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 blah. Or you get the call right. You get somebody wide open and you can't even throw it to him, So, and he kind of hinted at that a little bit too, where it's like, guys, I can't expand this offense and we can't do any of the basic stuff. It's like, yeah, I agree. But like, by the end of the game, we've talked about that too. It's the same 4 or 5 plays. That Loveland pick, where it was like they hit the huge 4th down play, it literally felt like, oh, that worked. Let's go to Loveland again on the same side of the field.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like, And Tuttle, we talked about the Washington game, where he comes in, he's making all his reads and progressions. But what happens is you get in this offense for a little bit, and the pressure starts making you nervous and anxious, and you start locking on to Loveland, right? And then the defense is reacting to that too, and yeah. All right, we're already at a half hour. I did want to real quick, though, just say on the defensive side, in terms of, we talked about going back to Texas and Arkansas State and making adjustments and getting better and blah, 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 right? I feel like the defense has done that, right? Wink has adapted. We're seeing a lot less of the exotic looks. He's kind of going to more of a base that works with college. The front 4, however you want to look at it, but analytically, blah, 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 the front 4 of Derek Moore, Stewart, Mason Graham, and Kenneth Grant is the best in college football. As bad as everything has been this year for Michigan, that's still the best front 4 in college football. I thought Jayshon Barham had a really good game.
Yep.
And, kind of getting him back to a place where he might be comfortable.
Yeah.
Jair Hill, we've picked on him a ton. He's had highs and lows. Same thing with Zeke Berry. Goes against his hometown Illinois team. Jair Hill had a really good game. Nice to see Amir Hall back out there. I doubt we're going to see Will Johnson Saturday against Michigan State. I mean, he's been playing hurt all year, and then he's out of this game again, and I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the defense did enough, man. Like, if you would have told me Luke Altmaier was going to go 9 of 18 for 80 yards, I'm taking that.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Illinois only has 267 yards of total offense, and 40 of the rushing yards came on that fake punt. They're 3 of 11 on 3rd down. You beat them in time of possession by 7 minutes. It's like, it's turnovers, man. And it's, you're the quarterback getting sacked. That's the only thing. The pressure to sack thing, that's still been a Michigan issue. But anyway, can the Michigan defense look, Aiden Childs is a playmaker, but he's making a lot of mistakes when he's extending these plays as well. I just brought up the turnover worthy play percentage. He has the worst turnover worthy play percentage in all of college football for people to have minimum snaps, right? So like, is this the game where Michigan finally evens out the turnovers or maybe even gets more than the opponent? Is that the way they win this game? Is the defense able to force enough mistakes? I mean, they've struggled against really good receivers this year, and Nick Marsh, it feels like, but I think that's going to be the path, is the defense is probably going to have to force 2 or 3 turnovers, maybe score, right? And then you just hope the offense gives you enough sustainable drives and scores enough points, right? I mean, they are what did the line end up falling to? Anybody know? They're like 6-point favorites. I didn't even look at it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think I saw it at 5.5 at one point, but
yeah, I know it was going to be like 9 or 10, and then obviously it dropped after the weekend's game. So I mean, at this point, where it doesn't really matter what the spread is, right? I mean,
and they need Will Johnson. I mean, they need Will Johnson this week.
Yeah,
he's gonna have to. I mean, if he can go, he's gonna have to find a way. I mean, they can't be without him this week.
Let's lump this together so we can get into the basketball piece. But basically, what I'm asking you is, how can Michigan win this football game? And do you think Michigan can or will win this football game?
Call me stupid. I still think there's a way for them to win this game. I mean, I do. I think the fact that Childs is turnover prone, they really struggled in the red zone against Iowa. And Michigan has been, all things considered, pretty good in the red zone defensively. I mean, but look,
noises.
Man, I just look. Everything is just. I don't even know. I mean, like offensively, look, you gotta turn. Can't turn the ball over. You gotta be able to run the ball. Don't turn the ball over, and that means don't get peanut punched. Don't do that. Don't get that. There's still a path. There's still a path to victory, and I think a lot of it might have to you gotta have to have some help from Michigan State. Obviously, you can't do it all yourself, and that's just what it's come down to. We're talking about a 42-49 point win last year, and now we're talking about them, barely, maybe not even scraping by or not even winning. So, it's just sad how just colossal the fall has been. It's just not,
Yeah, it's unacceptable, Trevor, like we talked about last week, going from 49-0 to potentially losing this game. There is a path to victory for Michigan. In my opinion, it's putting Alex Orji at quarterback and running the football, like I just mentioned, with the whole host of guys that you have back there, featuring mainly Kalel Mullings. I think that's the clearest path to victory. You're not going to throw an interception if you don't throw a pass, and I just think that's what Michigan has to do to win this game. And I saw someone in the comments mention whoever wins the turnover battle wins the game. I agree, but I think I would phrase it as whoever doesn't lose the turnover battle wins the game, because I think there's a chance we could see multiple turnovers from both teams. We know how many interceptions Aiden Childs can throw, and Trevor, like you mentioned, he has a very high rate of turnover-worthy plays, and obviously Michigan turns the ball over a ton as well. So whoever doesn't lose the turnover battle, in my opinion, is going to win this one, and I just don't have confidence in Michigan to do it. It looked, like I said earlier, it looks like they've quit on this season. It looks like they're going through the motions, and it looks like they've given up on the year. I think Michigan State's going to win.
I'm going to do it one more time. I'm a big fan of data. You guys know that. Michigan, even with everything that's happened this year and everything we've talked about, with FEI for efficiency ratings and S&P Plus, have an 80% chance of winning this football game. And the projected margin is 13 points.
That's
This should be it should be a 27-14 game. That's what the freaking data says. And it's like, what? And I had to dig into it and be like, why? But that's what it is. And it's because the Michigan State offense is actually somehow less efficient with points per drive than Michigan's is. And Michigan's defense is still better with relative possessions. And I think that's the huge assumption in this one is the turnover battle will either be even or in Michigan's favor. If it's not, they're losing the football game, just like they lost to Illinois.
Yep.
Right. It is just that freaking simple. So I'm kind of with you, Brock. If it's Orgy and they run it every single time, we sound, haha, that's funny. But in all seriousness, that could be it. Right. Like we've joked about Iowa before when their offense was as bad as it had been and their defense was so good. I can't remember who did it, but somebody literally figured out like there were games Iowa arguably would have been better off punting as soon as they got the ball instead of running their offense. Right. Like, I don't think it's that bad, but yeah, look, it's going to be a mental thing, right? To your point, Brock, like they're going to have to get up for this game and have some pride in it and understand, especially for the ones that are going to be leaving at the end of this year, that what momentum or legacy are they going to leave behind? What are they building? Because there are positive things that Moore has done behind the scenes that will come to turn, tonight. We'll see some of it. And, going into the off season, what he does will obviously be crucial going into the next year. But man, when you talk about that continuity thing and culture, what was Harbaugh's biggest thing about adversity? Right? And getting punched in the mouth, and what do you do? And getting back up. And if they quit in adversity, then what are you doing? And like I said, the losing this game, man, when you should win it. You guys have heard me a bunch of times. The 2020 game, I know it was COVID, blah, blah, blah. I thought that was Harbaugh's worst loss, etc. I've told the story 100 times. This would be that realm. You give a bunch of oxygen to your in-state rival who is already off to a better start than you are. And it could potentially crush the good recruiting momentum you do have, right? Like this, I think you could win this game and lose the rest and be fine. You can't lose this game, man.
Yeah. As someone pointed out on our boards here not too long ago, whoever this recruit that is going to commit tonight is their favorite recruit, because whoever's thought they saw what they saw on Saturday and said, you know what, I want to join that. That's a pretty special thing. So, the kid that's going to drop, it'll all make sense here in a little bit.
Well, and we talked about it too.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, but I think kids aren't. I mean, relationships are a big piece of it, and I think kids aren't stupid too. They realize what's happening, and they don't
care. They don't care about what happens before they get there. They care what happens, what they can do when they're there.
Well, and I've told you too, Michigan, if anything, right now, for the first time in a long time, can pitch playing time.
Yep, 100%.
Like that, I expect them. They should absolutely go nuts in the portal this year, because you don't have to go to a guy with an opportunity to compete. You're gonna play, dude. You know what I mean? So
yeah, they'd be absolutely stupid not to even like bring up the possibility of playing time. I mean that absolutely.
Anyway. All right, so I am going to pick Michigan to win. I'm probably not going to settle on 27-14, but I am going to pick Michigan to win. Brock's going MSU. Josh,
Michigan.
We're going to do it one more time. We'll do it one more time.
Yeah, I'm going to punch myself in the nuts and do it one more time. 13-7. I think it's going to be that kind of a weird, stupid game.
I promise you, if they lose that game, you're going to want to be here Sunday. I am going to be on one. Just going to tell you, Josh is normally that guy. I am going to be on one if they lose this game. So make sure you join us Sunday. But, all right. As Brock alluded to, the ecosystem that is Michigan sports, only one can be good at one time. We are so excited about basketball, assuming the things, right? But anyway, in all seriousness, we did get a good look at this basketball team last night. I have no sense of timing right now. It was last night, right?
Yeah, last night.
Okay. Last night over at Little Caesars Arena, taking on Oakland. Not the same Oakland team that became the darlings of the tournament last year, obviously. Brock will be able to get into that better probably about who's left and whatever. But that said, Brock, Dusty May talked about the two big men playing together and what he wanted to see from that, that he wanted shooters to take shots, that he wanted this team to be cohesive on defense and get back and score quickly. That speed and transition was going to be the key. These dudes were going to be running up and down the floor. Not a lot of set offense, slow walks. We saw that. We absolutely saw that. And one of the people, you know, there's a lot of players hyped this offseason in football, and it hasn't necessarily translated. We heard a lot about a freshman leading up to this game. He looked really good in this game, right? Like, I don't want to overreact too much, but we saw what Dusty May said we would see. We saw some shots going down. I thought the team, for not being together, right? This is all a lot of new pieces put together. I thought they looked pretty cohesive for a team that's so patched together. But anyway, you were there. You've been, you know, getting our previews together for this team leading up. What did you think? Are they going to the Final Four?
You know what? I don't know if I'm ready to go there, but they looked good. And everything that Dusty May talked about the entire offseason, everything that he wanted this team to be, I think we saw that last night. He wanted to be a team that moves the ball fast and gets up the floor quickly. That was evident. That was like night and day difference from last year when Michigan was walking the ball up the floor on most possessions. They moved the ball quickly. They shot a lot of threes. 35, if I remember correctly. They shot 35 threes, made 15 of them, which was like a 42% clip or something like that, which was impressive. And one thing I tweeted out last night, I was doing some research on stats. They made 15 threes in the first game of the Dusty May era in an exhibition game. That only happened once in the Juwan Howard era. Did Michigan make 15 3-pointers or more, which is obviously everything that we say comes with the caveat that it's Oakland and it's an exhibition game, but this team can shoot the ball well. Sam Walters looked really good from the corner. Roddy Gale looked good. Trey Donaldson made a three. Danny Wolf even made one late in the game, if I remember right, too. So a lot of guys that can shoot the ball. LJ Kaysen, like you mentioned, Trevor. Wolf had two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. LJ Kaysen, like you mentioned, made a 3-pointer.
It's going to be so good. That kid's so
good.
Good.
He's a player, and he had that one steal there, I think, in the second half that led to the foul and free throw attempts. That's the one thing, though, that Michigan didn't do well, and I will say they did not shoot free throws well at all.
Yeah,
and
9 of 18, something like that.
Yeah, it was 50% or worse, but Dusty May did say after the game that they haven't worked a whole lot in the offseason on fatigue free throws. They normally just do free throw shooting when everyone's fresh and ready to go, but they haven't worked on it when guys are tired. So he said that's something they're going to work on more. But
yeah,
overall, very impressed. This team, like I said, is everything that Dusty May said he wants it to be, and they look like they could be definite competitors in the Big Ten.
You're blowing up over there, Shefty.
Oh, you can hear that? Sorry about that. Yeah.
It's all right. Yeah, I'm just giving it. It's funny.
Yeah, no, it's kind of funny that they made more 3-pointers than they did free throws. But yeah, I mean, like if you want to talk about like minutia and all that kind of stuff, you know, the turnovers weren't great, but you know, Dust, I think they had like 14 or something like that. I didn't watch the game. When I reference this team, I'm referencing more of what I saw on Friday in the open practice that they had for the media. But yeah, I mean, 14 turnovers isn't great, but Dusty even said on Friday, like, he's like, hey, we're probably going to have a lot of turnovers here in the early stages. And some of them were probably, you know, you could have cut them down and just chalk it up for just, you know, just error. But a lot of it, you know, you got some guys that, you know, 95% of that program needs to learn this system. And I tell you what, you know, just looking at those guys on Friday, and I don't know if you can attest to this, Brock, but I mean, the final score also attests to it too. These look like guys that you couldn't tell if you didn't know, you couldn't tell those guys were transfers and all like the land of misfit toys together. You know, they're really good chemistry wise, and they were super fluid in practice. I mean, guys were falling and diving all over the place. I mean, they take practice seriously, and you know, the practice how you play moniker. You know, it might sound like, you know, sports speak, but it's so true. I mean, they practiced, they played exactly how I saw them on Friday. They played and they were really impressive. I know I mentioned in our takeaways piece for our subscribers that I didn't think we were talking about Sam Walters enough. And lo and behold, I mean, he reminds me a lot of a Duncan Robinson type of guy that can really get hot off the bench quick for you. I mean, if you can
That's
add
such a good stroke.
if he can add a couple of like quick 3-pointers off the, you know, I remember that stat during that Final Four run that they had with Beeline that, you know, if Duncan Robinson scored over 15 points, Michigan was like 30-0 or something like that. That feels a lot like what you could get out of Sam Walters. Danny Wolf, that dude's just a ball player, man. I mean, that guy just knows how to play ball. You know, really impressive. For a big dude, handles it like a
He's
guard.
fluid. Yep.
Handles it like a guard, shoots really well, and you can see the blueprint of what Dusty wants with him and Vlad Golden together. They are not the same player at all. They are two completely different players. So it just makes a lot of sense to play those guys at the front court. And, you know, Dusty has said multiple times in the offseason, he hasn't seen those guys get in each other's way. And I think that's big, you know, no pun intended. I think that's big for both of them, as they kind of learn, you know, the system and learn each other. You know, they're two different guys. You've got a guy that is just aggressive around the rim in Vlad Golden, super physical. And obviously it helps that he knows this system like a third language, you know, knows it back to front, and has been really crucial to, you know, getting these guys adjusted. So I even think Fat Brooks is going to be a good one, man. He was really handsy on defense when I saw him on Friday. You know, all in your face defensively, can you know, is always disrupting passes, is getting his hand in there. You know, I was told, or before I saw him, I was told that he, you know, his biggest knock right now is probably his shooting. Kind of his big comparison was Xavier Simpson for Fat, which I can absolutely see that. But I thought he was a better shooter than that when I saw him in practice. I mean, he was hitting down some shots during the drills. So obviously that's got to translate to the court. And, you know, again, it's Oakland, so you can only take it with a grain of salt. But I mean, you couldn't ask for a better start for a program that is trying to figure itself out, because Dusty doesn't know his starting five yet. I mean, that was kind of a, you know, a throw out starting five and then see what happens. And he's still trying to figure out who goes with who when you talk about bench rotation and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better debut. They've got another one here coming up against Toledo, which is another really good a good matchup. You know,
Toledo is going to be a better tester, better barometer than Oakland.
I agree. I mean, they're good enough. They're good enough to where you can be challenged and where you can kind of still figure things out in the process. But if you like fast-paced basketball on both ends of the court, free-flowing basketball, and guys that just chuck up shots, I mean, this system is going to be for you. You're going to love what Dusty May does. And man, their recruiting is off the charts right now too. I mean, it's only going to get better from here too, which is pretty scary. It's pretty scary if all things continue on this upward trajectory.
Brock, Josh touched on something I wanted to ask you around the lineup, because I mean, this feels like what the starting lineup should be to me personally. It looks like they're probably going to run about 9 deep. When you think about Juwan and the idea of like the NBA and the positionless basketball, we never really saw it. And with this team, we're going to see it. Because like, other than Vlad, who's a clear center, these guys play all over the place. Wolf literally guarded every single position in this game, 1 through 5, right? And I think like Namari Burnett, I know it wasn't a great shooting night for him, but like I felt the same way about T. Will. I like him off the bench. I like his energy off the bench. I not that he couldn't be a starter. And look, starter doesn't really matter at the end of the day because if the minutes get split up relatively evenly and it's situational, whatever, it is what it is. But I off the bench, what he was plus or minus 31. And I feel the same way about Cheddar too. I feel like this could be a really good thing for Cheddar with him coming in off the bench, and then you're getting creative with Wolf and Vlad and who comes off when and whatever. We've talked about Donaldson not really being, it's going to be weird for Michigan fans to adjust. He is not the kind of point guard. And I mean, the system's not going to be the kind of point guard that Michigan fans are used to seeing. LJ's his clear backup at this point.
Yeah.
Which is awesome and crazy to see. But it does feel like you've got what you've got with Wolf and Golden. Walter's coming off the bench and giving you those threes. I love that. I still think, I don't know if it's going to be Donaldson. It feels like it's got to be Gale. Gale's got to be the guy that gets his shot back and he becomes the dude. If this team has a dude, I think it's going to have to be him. And I don't know if that affects who starts with, him and Ruben were 2 and 3 in this game, obviously. But what are kind of your initial again, complete overreaction to an exhibition game against Oakland. So maybe this isn't initial thoughts from the game, but just maybe how you're feeling in general. And this is just a small piece of evidence to it. How are you feeling about a potential starting lineup, rotations, or where guys can thrive, if you will, or however you want to take that?
I really liked what Michigan rolled out there. I believe it's what I predicted on last week's podcast of Donaldson, Ruben Jones, Roddy Gale, Danny Wolf, and Vlad Golden. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked really good. And Trevor, like you said, no one's going to be nitpicking over starting or not starting. And I just looked. Ruben Jones played 22 minutes and he started, and Namari Burnett came off the bench and played 21 minutes.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's Dusty May's style of basketball. It's just balanced. That was the thing that stood out to me the most was balance. You had 5 guys in double figures, and all 9 of the guys that Dusty May said, I believe on Friday, he said they have a rotation of 9 deep. All 9 scored. All 9 were efficient and effective. And that's really my biggest takeaway is that obviously it's Oakland, but it's balance and it's really good. Michigan can get scoring from anywhere. Donaldson, Ruben Jones hit at least 1 3 and showed some flashes. Obviously Golden was a force down low. He is a massive human being, and those one-handed right hand dunks are vicious.
Gardner vibes, like what he's what you need in the Big Ten, though, right? Like that center that Purdue and Illinois have had in recent years. He's that dude.
Yes, he is, and he looks like he's ready for the Big Ten. Obviously, having played at FAU the last couple of years, but just a really balanced attack, balanced team. I will say though, there will be. I can guarantee it. There will be a point in the season.
Did you say Central Time, Josh?
Yes.
Okay, keep going, Brock. Sorry.
Okay. There will be, I can guarantee it, a point in time in this season where Michigan is just going to have an off night and they're still going to be in a game and it'll be like a low scoring defensive battle. And Michigan is going to need to go to a guy. It's going to have to develop a go-to scorer in a critical moment late in a game. And I think you're right, Trevor. I think it is going to have to be Roddy Gale. It could be Vlad Golden, depending on what the matchup looks like there down low. But Roddy Gale is obviously going into the season the most experienced Big Ten player playing at Ohio State the last 2 seasons. As of right now, it would have to be him. But Michigan's going to have to develop some sort of go-to score that they know can get a bucket.
I think the thing that I like the most about this team is they're technically sound. Like this is a skill heavy team. You know what I mean? Like it's not just raw talent. Like they just do a lot of the basic things right. Which again, coming off of the last year is like glaring in the difference to me. this blows my mind too. Other than Vlad and then Fat, who got a couple, 6 minutes. And then some of the backups came in a minute. But guys that played serious minutes, Vlad's the only one that didn't make a 3. The other 8 guys all made a 3.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You know what I mean? Like Michigan's going to be able to, the ball movement was really good. Again, I feel like remember the start of last year, how good it was too. And then it was like Juwan started forcing his way back and things got weird, but the ball movement was good. I think being able to again, early game, but it just felt like these guys have Dusty May's confidence where it's like, if you have a look, you better shoot the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even Namari, who was 2 of 8, I think, from deep, right? It was like, that's clear. Like, we're going to pass the ball. When you're open, you better shoot. Like, we're a shooting team, right? And again, getting back on transition, it was just really cool to see too. So look, when they start getting into the actual regular season and playing some teams, it's obviously going to be more important, right? We can only react to what we have, but in a year where the Big Ten feels really open, and I think about things that good big teams have or have had in the past, and having the big men, having Vlad, having a big man like Wolf that can shoot from anywhere, and then having potentially good guard play too, like that'll have to be, I'm with you. I think you need that one guy. Maybe it's Gale, maybe it's Ruben, maybe it's Trey, maybe it's Wolf. I don't know. I think at some point there's going to have to be that guy, because we've seen what happens when you don't have him, right? Like, you remember the Kobe Buffkin, was it Indiana? Which game was it?
Oh,
yeah, you know what I'm talking? He threw it into Hunter's back or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, that is coaching. Why have you not told that dude you're the man?
Yeah,
you're the man, dude. None of them knew who the man was. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see that piece develop. But look, I mean, it is what it is. 92-48. I can only be happy with what I've seen. I think Toledo will be a bigger test. And then, the physicality will be a piece, though, right? Because other than Vlad, there's not a lot of size on this team, which helps with the flexibility of the position list and some of the small ball. But we'll see if they can continue to get rebounds when they get into some tougher opponents. So, all right. That was fun to talk about basketball, huh?
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
Things can be fun in basketball.
Look, it's obviously, we're kind of being sarcastic. It's obviously a big week for Michigan football. We are going to cover this game going into Michigan State. There's a lot of things to talk about, obviously, in terms of some health, and we still don't know who the starting quarterback is, and some other things. So you're going to want to make sure you're over at michigan.rivals.com in the den, having the talk with the Michigan fans and getting access to Josh's intel. Got it scrolling on the bottom there. If you're not a subscriber already, promo code BLUE30 gets you the first 30 days free. We'll obviously continue to get into more basketball content. Hockey's going. It's all there. And recruiting, which, if you haven't been paying attention to our far from subtle hints in the next hour or so, hopefully we see something. And there's still good things happening there, things that need to be talked about. So, Michigan State on Saturday, another night game. Woo!
How about Michigan State playing in what is it, like 6 straight night games?
Like 6 straight or something.
Yeah.
How does that happen? I do feel bad for him. That sucks, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, bummer.
Yeah. I'm gonna be dreading that all day. They got to get rid of the night games with the MSU thing. I don't understand it one bit. Tell you what.
Yeah, especially when this game is just not going to be good. It's just not going to be good.
I mean,
like that, it's going to set the game of football back like a decade.
I don't think it's gonna be that bad.
Oh, all right. You have more hope than I do.
I remember the Moon game.
Ugh. Yeah, they're due for one of those at this rate.
Oh man, yeah. So we'll see, but viewers, loyal, start to end again. High viewership on this episode. We appreciate all of you joining us live, being a part of the conversation. If you do want to join us live, make sure you go to our YouTube channel, search Maize and Blue Review, like, subscribe, notification bell, so you know when we go live with Hail the Podcast. When Mr. Dennis goes live with his post-game show. The Illinois post-game show blew up. A lot of people tuned in for that. That was cool to see. His Good Afternoon Michigan Football, soon Michigan Basketball Daily Show. around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You want to be a part of that too. That's a really interactive as well. There's nothing we do that isn't interactive, whether it's here or inside the den. We're there. We're talking with you. Like that's a big part of who we are. So we'd love to have you join us if you haven't already. Again, michigan.rivals.com. Otherwise, hail to the podcast. We will be back next week, most likely Sunday. This week we kind of bumped just because of the basketball game. I can't think of anything that's going to cause us to not be here Sunday, so we'll plan on that. But either way, we'll be talking about, I don't know, man, either a Michigan win over Sparty and what that means for the rest of the season, or I think full meltdown mode if there's a loss, especially if it's not good. But yeah. Ugh, gross. But anyway, thank you as always for joining us. We will see you next time. Hail to the podcast.